I presume you're here in order to learn of Magecraft. I'll have you know, there's no room for the weak-willed in this course, and despite your best efforts, the sorcery of our time is but a fraction of what it once was in the Age of Gods. Much of the craft is established through pedigree, and the culture of mages is riddled with deception and moral depravity. That said, if you insist, I shall do my best to educate you in this miserable, yet fascinating world.
In our previous lesson, I provided an introduction on mystic eyes, explaining various examples of them. Given their many uses, it is no wonder why mages seek out mystic eyes, both natural and artificial. While I mentioned mages are typically born with them, and they transfer hereditarily, I did not speak much of the hidden market through which mages buy and sell mystic eyes to one another. Thus, today's lesson is on the infamous mystic eye collection train Rail Zeppelin. We will speak of how it works, as well as about a particularly dangerous incident that occurred around it. In essence, the Rail Zeppelin is a train that first traveled Northern Europe, and on its various stops, would pick up mages who had received a formal invitation to board. Obviously, such candidates are typically chosen for having a vested interest in either selling or buying mystic eyes. Given the value of these eyes, however, transactions are handled via auction, forcing mages to compete for their prize. Certainly, this is a wonderful opportunity for mages, but you're likely wondering who would curate this process. Well, initially, the train was managed by a dead apostle named Rose N. Some suspected that this may even be the infamous Rita Rose N, a superior yet arrogant vampire known for bathing in blood on a nightly basis. It is believed that her penchant for artistry fueled her desire to curate the train and bask in the splendor of rare mystic eyes. However, the original manager of the train is no longer present, giving us no way of knowing whether they were Rita herself or another of the Rose N clan. Narrative on her disappearance is also vague. Accounts state that the mage Toko Aozaki and her familiar Lug Beowulf once boarded the train on a journey through Europe. During this time, Toko battled against the manager, and collateral damage destroyed the train itself. Since then, the former manager has been absent, instead leaving the train's care to the deputy manager, a shadowy emanation left behind in her stead. This representative had the train rebuilt and continues to curate the event as the only entity capable of extracting a person's mystic eyes. Even so, the deputy manager is not alone in this process. Currently, the train's conductor is a grim individual named Rodin. The one in charge of the auction specifically is a woman named Leandra. At any given moment, Leandra has a handful of mystic eyes implanted into her arm, though you wouldn't know just looking at her sleeves. She understands the drama of mages, and typically refrains from interfering in their devious ploys to murder one another. That said, she will get involved if external forces pose a threat to those on board, attempting to protect passengers from anything but themselves. After being rebuilt, the Rail Zeppelin has expanded its route through all of Europe, including Britain. The train itself is made up of 12 cars. The main car, Ricapello, is one of the 3 cars that provide locomotion. In addition, there is a car for dining, a lobby, guests, and freight. For self-defense, the main car Ricapello is equipped with a spiritual mystic eye projector, which uses the spiritual nature regression type lens Rose Eye to tremendously amplify the power of mystic eyes consumed by it. As expected, the Rail Zeppelin has been a host to a fair number of auctions, but none quite as troublesome as one involving a mage by the name of Dr. Hartless. Just as the name implies, he no longer possesses a conventional heart, as his had been stolen by fairies. Before Waver Velvet took on the role of Lord Elmaloy II and began teaching at the Clock Tower as head of the Faculty of Modern Magecraft, Dr. Hartless headed the department despite not being a lord at all. Rather than prestige, he earned the position through merit, being well-versed in not only modern magecraft, but also zoology, botany, mineralogy, metamorphism, and spiritual evocation. He was a contemporary of Marisbury Animasphere, and the 2 mages took great interest in the Fuyuki Holy Grail Wars. They split, however, when Marisbury learned that the Grail had been corrupted by Angermainu and could no longer work as a wish-granting device. but Hartless held his interest due to his fascination with summoning servants. While investigating this process, he made use of his highly dangerous mystic eyes of usurpation, which allow him to hijack the mystic eyes of others. Essentially, he can see vicariously through their eyes and control them as if they were his own. The most tragic victim of these eyes was a church investigator by the name of Carabo Frampton. He was tasked with looking into a series of London murders that, ironically, he himself played a part in. You see, Carabo possessed mystic eyes of transience, which could both see glimpses of the past and also bring past effects into the present. That last ability proved to be a dangerous murder weapon, in that they could be used to take a past occurrence, such as a slash into thin air, and bring it to the present right as an unsuspecting victim occupied that space. The result? Near spontaneous decapitation of the victim. Naturally, this left behind no clues, only a series of headless corpses. While Carabo's eyes were responsible for the murders, he himself did not willingly commit them. The true culprit was Dr. Hartless, using his own eyes to commandeer Carabo's. His motive? To preserve the heads of the deceased, amassing a collection of mystic eyes he could channel at will. Preserving these heads came about through the use of a pocket dimension of sorts. Hartless, who lacked a heart in his chest cavity, instead had a fissure connecting to another dimension of infinite number space where he could hide the heads. The extra eyes helped Hartless investigate the Grail War and formulate a plan to replicate its ability to summon heroic spirits. The two things Hartless needed to pull this off were a former master of the Grail War and the ley lines resulting from a child of Einash, though I suppose that needs to be explained in detail. Einash is the name of a living forest that goes by many names, including the Demon of Schwarzwald, the Thinking Forest, and the Predator Forest. It qualifies as one of the 27 Dead Apostle ancestors, keeping itself alive for over 800 years by training the life of those foolish enough to enter it. The forest grows a fruit that drips blood when ripened. The blood that flows down germinates the earth like seeds, sprouting smaller vampiric forests called Children of Einash. Hartless realized that if he could bring the Rail Zeppelin and a child of Einash together, he could connect their ley lines to that of Fuyuki City's Greater Grail, resulting in an imitation Holy Grail. Then, with Waver Velvet, a survivor of the previous war, present on the train, Hartless could use Waver's bond with the heroic spirit Iskandar to summon a ghost liner, which more or less functions like a servant. Putting this plan into motion, Hartless stole the catalyst Waver used to summon Iskandar and used it as bait to get Waver to board the Rail Zeppelin. Once aboard, Hartless teleported a child of Einash using the void in his chest, bringing all of the components he needed together in a single location, allowing him to summon a servant of the class he names Faker. Fitting of the class, Faker was Iskandar's body double. A twin sister to Hephaestion, one of Iskandar's generals, Faker served as Iskandar's shadow, never having a name of her own. As a result, despite being a valuable asset to Iskandar, she was never officially included among his army. In fact, she bore resentment toward the army, and was thus not included in the Ionian Hetairoi. Having finally succeeded in summoning a servant of his own, Hartless covered his tracks. He disguised himself as Kaules Forvej Yugidamillennia, but feared his cover would be blown by one of the train's passengers, Trisha Fellows, who possessed mystic eyes of premonition. Thankfully for him, Hartless's old victim Carabo Frampton had also boarded the train to auction off his eyes of transience, which had started to erode his own memories. Just like before with the killings in London, Hartless tapped into Carabo's eyes to assassinate Trisha. Amazingly, however, Trisha was able to envision her own death, and at the last moment, hid her head away from Hartless. Consumed by greed, Hartless conspired with the mage Yvette to try and win the auction for Carabo's eyes. Essentially, he stretched his ambitions too far, leading a trail of activity that allowed Waver to deduce the truth of his involvement. Once outed for his crimes, Dr. Hartless attempted to escape with Faker's protection, calling forth the Child of Einash once more to attack the train. With the auction essentially annulled, Carabo was given back his eyes, and he used them to combat Faker, bringing about slashes from just moments before to injure her. The train's remaining mages teamed up to help Olga Marie Animesphere cast a spell, sending fire down upon the Einash branches. To finish off the Child of Einash, Leandra loaded the Mystic Eye projector to send a tremendous blast of energy into the forest's core. Lastly, Waver's confidant Gray removed the seals on her divine construct Rongo Minyad to counter Faker's chariot. In the end, however, Dr. Hartless managed to escape alive, and the conflict was written off as a battle between dead apostles. Karabo was thought to have died during the fight. While this was definitely a bizarre incident, it proved to be nothing the Rail Zeppelin could not endure. It continues to operate, drawing in mages who seek to profit from the auctions. For example, the mage Galvarosos Gladio, the head of his family, poured a fortune into acquiring mystic eyes of future sight. Just like Karabo's eyes, however, these proved to be more of a curse than a blessing. These eyes could only show Gladio a single future, that of his own demise looping endlessly. As a result, he had them removed, a testament to the potential downsides of a mage's greed. All things considered, the same can be said for anyone trying to purchase their way to success. In summation, the Rail Zeppelin is the only place where mages can effectively extract and sell their naturally born mystic eyes. It is one of the few ways in which mages can commodify the craft, gaining new and interesting abilities via wealth. Managed by the remains of a dead apostle and a mysterious auctioneer, the Rail Zeppelin continues to tour all of Europe, only appearing to those specifically invited to join in on the auctions. For our next lesson, I will speak of another commodified aspect of Magecraft, mystic codes, or artifacts imbued with magical properties.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this channel, help me beat the algorithm by liking, commenting, and sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and, most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all of my anime discussion, lore, or Let's Play content. If you want to support me directly, there are now 3 ways that all provide the same benefits. You can click Join here on YouTube, or join Patreon or Subscribestar for access to exclusive vids and early access. As always, celebrate your fandom.